Went in there, the buck private. The time I left, I was a tech sergeant. It's a stultifying experience. Stand up on a platform naked. I'm just embarrassed to death. You don't do that in civilian life. You don't stand naked in front of a panel of guys and a panel of doctors. You're standing there, and there's a big mirror. You can look at yourself and go, whoa, I got a cockeyed shoulder and a funny hip. I got to this one place, and it's fuzzy-faced PFC. You know, he has your papers. And he looks at it and he says, student and musician. What do you want, the paratroopers or submarine duty? Smart aleck me, I say, he didn't look any much older than I was. I said, well, gee, I don't know. You look like you've been in both of them. Why don't you tell me which one is the best? And he gave me a salty look and picked up a stamp, rubber stamp, put it on a stamp pad, went, dude. It said INF. Hey, I made it into the infantry. So that was the start of a long and illustrious military career. And my orders read to report to Fort Ord, California. All the marching we did was in the sand. It was close enough to the end of the war that we were being trained to hit the beaches in Japan. We were going to invade the Japanese mainland. I wanted to go to Europe. You know, I wanted to get the Nazis. So where did I end up? Korea. Well, I probably was the first contingent to land and do occupation duty in Korea.
Private Marvin Fishman landed at Puson, Korea. And that's what it smelled like. Puson.
We got off and we're lined up on the beach. Everybody's going, what is that? And everybody's looking at the bottom of their chute. What did we step in here? It was a beautiful country. The hills were all terraced. There was rice everywhere. The awful part of it was that they didn't have a sewage system there. They used to fertilize the crop with human waste. There was no bed of roses. Whew. And there isn't a paved road in Korea. When we got there, they had a paved nothing. We paved whatever roads that were paved in Korea at that time, we did them. Like the Kimpo Airfield. They built a highway to Kimpo Airfield, which incidentally is where I ended up with my band over there. I had a combo. Kimpo Combo. I was on tenor, and I had a bass man from Cleveland, and a piano man from Cleveland, and a drummer from Chicago. Good group. In fact, we used to have USO groups come over and entertain, and we'd end up backing them a lot of times. And one of the showgirls came up to the bandstand one night and said, boy, I never expected to have to travel halfway around the world to find a Cafe Society outfit like this. And I was very proud of that. We did some interesting things in Korea, like guard duty, and then we unloaded ships. They'd send reefer ships. I was at reefers, they issued them. Reefer ship was short for refrigerated ship. So we continued with our police action, keeping the North Koreans up above the 38th parallel. So there we were in the middle. The North Koreans didn't like us, and the South Koreans didn't like us so much either. One day, they called the company together. All right, man, who knows how to type? And the guys kind of went, and looked at one another. Well, I had a deep, dark secret. I had taken typing in high school, figuring someday this might come in handy for writing reports or whatever. They said, all right, has anybody here done any typing at all on anything? Hunt and peck or whatever. In the Army, the first thing you learn, the first thing any non-com will tell you is don't volunteer for anything. Because you say, oh, you know how to type, soldier. Come on, get over here. A couple more volunteers, you and you. Go unload that 6x6 cases of typewriters. Very slowly and reluctantly, I raised my arm. Fishman, you know how to type? Well, Sergeant, I took about a year's typing in high school, and I wouldn't call myself a typist, but I know my way around a typewriter. All right, step out of here. Rest of you dismissed. Well, it turned to be a fortuitous decision. And not only that, a lucky one. They needed another company clerk, and a company clerk has to type. So I was the company clerk trainee. No more heavy lifting. I'm at the chain of command. Every morning, you type a morning report. There can be no erasures and no strikeovers, no mistakes. And I ended up with a stack of morning reports about that high before I got one that didn't have any mistakes on it. Because, you know, be typing, clack, 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 sick in hosp, number of men on active duty, that was ACTVDY, active duty. And all of a sudden, hey, I got it, the clack, the wrong, They assigned a company to me. The fox was running the chicken coop. Somebody had to be in charge. You got to get the lay of the land when you're in the service. Nobody knew where anybody was. And so I'd wake my guys up in the morning. get them out to the chow line. And as soon as they got back, I'd say, okay, disappear. I don't want to see you anymore. Get into the woods. So they disappear. Along comes the lieutenant and says, Sergeant, yes, sir. How many men you got? I got about 20 of them, sir. He said, well, where are they? They're off on the window washing detail in Area B. Okay, sir, well, he was going to send me anywhere. Hey, I was a big deal. I had 5 stripes. Okay, Sergeant, carry on. Yes, sir. As soon as they saw the guy leave, they'd come back. We'd all sack out. And I had an old Army careerman who liked to drink a little. And he'd get drunk just about every night. They issued the officers a case of booze a month. I'll never forget once I was driving them somewhere in a Jeep and we got stuck behind this ox cart, honey dipper, with 2 big barrels on it, and the breeze was blowing. That's part of the sewage system in Korea. There's no way I could go around this guy. There were people walking, and the captain was getting madder by the minute. He said, get around that, get. I said, I can't, Captain. I'll wipe out 4 stores and 6 pedestrians. I dropped it in the second and gunned it. Just at the time, he decided to give this Korean driving his honey wagon a smack for not pulling over. So just as I whipped around the corner, he leaned out to hit this guy, which was not a good thing. I wasn't in favor of that. He reached over like this, and I went around the corner, and when I got around the corner, I turned and I said, boy, Captain, that was a... Captain? Hello? And I looked back, and there he is, he's lying in the street. So I turned around, went back, picked him up, and he's giving a test. He says, yeah, son of a gun, no good. I said, I'm sorry, Captain, I had no idea what you were doing there. And our soldiers did not behave very well in Korea, a lot of them. I used to get in big altercations with them. Most of those Koreans had a bicycle, and some of our esteemed armed forces would lean over the side of 6x6 and smack a Korean, knock him off his bike. And they thought that was real sport. I'd get into more fights. Time came, we started sending guys home because the war was over. I remember a Mexican soldier by the name of Flores, real nice guy. He comes to me in the office one day, he says, hey, Sarge, look at this letter I got from my wife. Well, he had a couple, 3 kids, and they didn't have any money. They didn't have milk for the kids. They had nothing. So I went to the captain, I said, take a look at this, Captain. He said, yeah, so? I said, so he doesn't belong here, we don't need him. I said, we'll do an occupation duty, sitting around here doing nothing. We're gonna send this man home. Okay, type of request for hardship discharge for this guy and get him out of here. And I went over and I said, wake up, soldier, you're going home. Oh, wow, Bart, That was the only time I'd ever been kissed on the lips by a soldier. My time came up, my readjustment time came around. That's what they called it. You're being readjusted to the United States. Oh, I can take that, okay. So we're a bunch of salty old veterans. After all, I was 20 years old. We went back to the United States on a victory ship. The General Gordon, boy, did that jump around in the water. We got back home, and we just had a ball. We went dancing and drinking and just having a good time. You couldn't spend a dime anywhere. We were in uniform, and nobody would let us spend any money. They bought us dinner, they bought us drinks, we just had a ball. These Vietnam guys that came back, they had it tough because it was not a good war, quote unquote. I wanted to get home. We couldn't get a plane, couldn't get a flight, and there was no prospect of a flight. So we said, heck with it, let's take the train. I tell you one thing that was wonderful. The people along the way, wherever we stopped, they were bringing us oranges and sandwiches and bananas. It was really great. I'm starting to tear up. Jeez, isn't that wild? That was a great time to be a soldier. Hey, let's go, clown. And I'll never forget coming up those steps at the Terminal Tower. There's the Terminal Tower. That's where I came home from overseas. Train pulled into the Terminal Tower. Our war hero, our son boy, came home in one piece. The biggest combat I saw was a few bar fights. It was wintertime. Walking up those steps, carrying my duffel bag. And I looked up, there's my whole family, my mother, brother, his wife, the whole bunch. There's nothing like coming home from the Army. I laid around the house for a couple of weeks, whatever. Just sucked up civilian life, going here and going there. Hey, we're downtown Cleveland. I wonder where the Roxy is. That was the burlesque house. My father used to go there, but we never talked about that. He didn't really go there a lot, only when Mom went out of town to visit relatives in South Bend, Indiana.